moving on. We've got some TV stuff to cover, and I personally think it was one of the best weeks that we've had in TV. I had the privilege to catch some of these episodes from the new Netflix series Ripley on my TV, and it might just be better than the stuff I saw in theaters. Some of the best visuals of the year. Zach, you finished the entire series, knowing that you're a
the
big...
first half.
Oh, the first half, sorry.
Yeah.
With the first half, knowing that you're a really big fan of the talented Mr. Ripley. You went up to bat when other movies were trying to be Mr. Ripley Jr. How does Netflix Ripley stand up?
You know, I definitely feel like the Anthony Minghella version of Talented Mr. Ripley, I like have so much love for that movie that it like does cast a shadow over anything that does try to like play in that field, right? Like it bothered me when I was watching Saltburn because I knew there was like a better version of the story out there. Did not bother me so much watching the Ripley on Netflix because this is a particularly beautifully directed and shot show. I think the way that this show manages to kind of like dive even further into the Ripley character, into the sort of weird way that he operates and his sort of
there you go,
like kind of hunger for the people around him is so ominous and foreboding, and particularly shot the way that Robert Elswit shoots this show. It is incredible. This might be the best looking Netflix series of all time. I've never seen a show this beautifully constructed. The pilot alone has these unreal shots. There's this whole sequence where they're riding in the subways and the two subways sort of like line up next to each other and pull apart.
Split.
It's like one of the most beautiful looking things I've ever seen. A whole sequence where he's like climbing up the steps in this small Italian village, and you just feel how tiring it would be. It makes for some good visual comedy, and just like every shot is so exquisite. I don't understand how they're doing it. So I'm just sort of completely pulled into the look of the show. It's also really incredibly acted. You have Andrew Scott here, the hot priest from Fleabag, the lead of All of Us Strangers, just being really incredible, like just absolutely commanding the frame. You kind of can't take your eyes off of him because he's got this weird mystery to him where he doesn't really, he's not very forthcoming in terms of who he is or what he wants, but you can see there's a lot of like inner workings. Like he's thinking, he's calculating, he's trying to feel people out, and he's just it's such an incredible performance. I feel like we praise a lot of performances on the show, and it's almost hard for me to articulate how incredible I think he is here.
What's that Ben Andrew Scott performance?
I haven't seen it yet.
Exactly. Like, back to back. Even last year, we had to give him a shout out for a movie that didn't blow us away as much as other people did. We thought it was good, but his performance we had to pay respect to. What you're saying here is I agree with it completely. We see like the Sherlock side of things, right? Sherlock is a character that multiple people have played, and it gives you that like visual of like, oh yeah, when you're like observing things in this very psych-like manner, that character has like really tapped into that point of view. What he does here in like trying to figure out, is this bank teller gonna snitch on me or not, you feel like you're in his shoes because of how it's shot and the way this man performs with just the little movements in his face. It's beautiful. You were talking about like he doesn't really know what he wants sometimes. Wow, what a character, where he still isn't like ahead of everybody else. He's kind of, you're there with him. Is he gonna be able to get away with this? He's like, there's one moment in particular, without getting into spoilers, dealing with a it's her and what's her name? Because she's also talking about great actors. Yeah, Dakota Fanning, just casually making a comeback in this year. I hadn't even seen that far ahead, but people were spoiling it. They posted this clip between the two of them, and I'm just gonna say there is a ashtray. I don't even know if you've gone that far.
I don't think I have. Yeah,
bro, it made me want to rush to it. Just the anxiety, the thrill that they're able to do, and there's not really too much violence in this movie. I mean, it's not really a story that's got like too much bloodshed. I'll keep it at that.
It comes in moments. It
comes in moments which makes you not know when it's going to be around the corner.
Yes.
Yeah. You were shouting out the cinematography. Shout out the production design. Not only in being able to replicate, you were saying New York, but all these villas in Italy. They're also outside, I think, in a lot of shots when they go swimming in the first episode. How are you getting the light?
I think a lot of this is shot on location, which is incredible.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
Because then even with the train sequence, right? Like the subway, they still look the same, the station. But you have to recreate those cars and put them on jibs or the visuals that you need to do with them. They did not go cheap with this. I've heard some people kind of give backlash to the idea of preferring the movie.
In what sense?
I've heard people think that the movie's a little bit more fun, and they like the Catch Me If You Can type feeling more than this foreboding, moody. I love the moodiness of this.
Yeah, well,
I think people are critiquing what is good. Oh, dude, there's a shot.
Yeah, they got the shot.
We just got a copyright, right? We just got a copyright right there, but it was worth it. What do you think about that? The clash between the movie style and what this brings?
Well, look, I think I'm going to rewatch the movie more than I'm going to rewatch the show because it is a fun vibe, right? Like when Philip Seymour Hoffman burst into that movie, I just I lean back in my chair and know I'm in for a good time. But just because they're going for different moods doesn't mean one is more of a success than the other one. And
Agreed.
I think what I like about this Ripley show is that it dives much further into the character and things that were maybe a little bit more mysterious about his backstory or his thinking even in the movie. You get more time to sit with him and kind of see how he's working things out. And this is also not even the only times that Patricia Highsmith's stories have been adapted or the Ripley stories have been adapted. John Malkovich played him at some point. There was a French version, I think, in the 60s. But so there have been different attempts at this character. I really love the Matt Damon, Jude Law version. And there are elements of it that I think there are elements of it that maybe I am thinking about watching this show, right? Because there's something about I think one thing that have small hangups with in the Ripley show is how much older Andrew Scott is than Johnny Flynn and Dakota Fanning. They're supposed to have gone to college together, so there's a little bit of plausible denial or suspension of disbelief rather there. But
you think they're doing the Andrew Scott like they do with Paul Rudd, where they just found out last year Paul Rudd is no longer young. Yeah, they're like he's finally entering that era where it's not. Are they still pretending that he is?
I think they're or maybe hoping that they can portray him for I don't know a range of years. It doesn't that part of it. I don't know if it works, but it's also not the most necessary part for you to get into the story. I also like the element of how because Damon and Jude Law are closer in age in that version, and they also have somewhat of a similar look. The whole idea in the movie, the whole idea of almost seeing yourself as him. Is not as present in this version of it, but what is present is sort of this constant seeking, this empty hole he's trying to have filled, and I found it to be really compelling.
I like that part of it. I would rather have a different style instead of a retread, right? We'll have preferences, but damn, so much better to have a different take on it. And you were mentioning that there's multiple novels. I didn't realize she had 5 of Tom Ripley. I feel like they keep doing the same book. I'm curious to see the other ones. Maybe the one that you had mentioned for the other adaptations covered those things, but there could be other series to it. Maybe a season 2 or just different takes for it. I think that having different directors and filmmakers tackle the franchise, tackle the series would be a very interesting way to approach it. But
definitely,
I thought it was pretty solid. I'm looking forward to finishing it before it gets spoiled for me because you talked about some other stuff that I want to spoil to you either, but they ruined it for me. I know, right? What am I doing?
Yeah,
I'll tell you what I'm doing, Zach.
You haven't seen episode 3 yet because that to me so far has been the highlight. It is really, really suspenseful stuff. And just before we jump off of this, this was actually a Showtime show.
What's wrong with Showtime, bro? I had
don't
read
understand
that. What's wrong with them? Well, hey, rest in peace, Showtime. Pay your respect for your drink. That ends. You heard they're shutting down the app by the end of this month.
Oh man, gone too soon. Gone before we got a chance to say goodbye.
Paramount mistake right there. But that is Ripley. I think it's solid. You think it's solid. You also recommended the movie, which I'll pull up here. I believe it is playing on
Always.
Netflix at the moment as well. So shout out to Netflix for having that double down right there. Also, it's playing on Showtime.
Smart programming.
So you got 30 days
Yeah.
before it's gone.